Dr. Rhiannon Nash had always believed in patterns. As a quantum physicist, she saw them everywhere, in particle behavior, in mathematical sequences, even in the way her coffee maker seemed to break down exactly every 3 months. But the pattern of soft blue light pulsing beneath her basement lab door at 2 a.m. definitely didn't fit any equation she knew. She should have been home hours ago. The university campus was deserted, and her research into quantum entanglement could wait until morning. Yet something about those light patterns kept her rooted in place, her hand hovering over the biometric scanner that would open the reinforced door. Statistical probability of hallucination due to sleep deprivation. 12%, she muttered, running her fingers through her dark curls. The light pulsed again, this time in a sequence that looked suspiciously like Fibonacci numbers. When she finally pressed her palm to the scanner, the door slid open with its usual hydraulic hiss. The blue light vanished instantly, leaving only the dim glow of her equipment's standby modes. Rhiannon's eyes narrowed as she scanned the room, noting how her carefully arranged quantum sensors had been ever so slightly repositioned. "Hello," she called out, immediately feeling foolish. If someone had broken into her lab, they were hardly going to answer with a friendly wave. She moved to her main workstation, fingers flying over the keyboard as she pulled up the security logs. Nothing. No unauthorized entries, no power fluctuations, no. Your security systems are quite impressive for primitive technology. Rhiannon spun around so fast she knocked over her coffee mug, sending it shattering across the floor. The voice had come from everywhere and nowhere, accompanied by a shimmer in the air like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. Though your containment protocols have several quantum-level vulnerabilities, the voice continued, now distinctly female and somehow amused. The shimmer coalesced, colors flowing like oil on water, until they formed a humanoid figure floating cross-legged in the air. The beam before her had skin that rippled with bioluminescent patterns, shifting between deep indigo and electric blue. Her eyes were solid silver, with no pupils or iris, yet somehow conveyed both intelligence and curiosity. She wore what looked like liquid metal shaped into clothing, and her hair moved as if suspended in water, despite the complete lack of wind in the sealed lab. "I'm either hallucinating or," Rhiannon started, her scientific mind already cataloging every impossible detail before her, "or you're experiencing first contact with an advanced alien species." The floating figure suggested helpfully, "I'm Research Officer Naira of the Stellar Science Coalition. And you, Dr. Rhiannon Nash, have been conducting quantum experiments that have drawn considerable attention across several dimensions." Rhiannon's mind raced through every possible explanation, from elaborate prank to mental breakdown. But those patterns of light, the way they moved, they followed rules she'd only theorized about in her most recent research. "My experiments, the quantum entanglement trials, weren't even successful yet," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. Naira's laugh sounded like wind chimes in a digital storm. "Oh, but they were. Just not in the way you expected. You've been accidentally creating micro-bridges between dimensions. Quite impressive, really. Dangerous, but impressive." Dangerous. Rhiannon found herself gravitating closer, professional curiosity temporarily overriding her fear. "How so?" "Well," Naira descended until her feet touched the floor, her bioluminescent patterns forming complex equations Rhiannon partially recognized. "You're about to find out. Because those bridges caught the attention of others, less friendly others. And they're coming." As if on cue, every piece of equipment in the lab began screaming alerts. Rhiannon rushed to her monitors, watching in horror as quantum readings went off the charts. "What's happening?" "Remember those less friendly others I mentioned?" Naira was suddenly beside her, silver eyes scanning the readings. "They're here. And they're very interested in both your research and why a coalition scientist is visiting an underdeveloped world." Through the lab's small window, Rhiannon watched as the night sky turned an impossible shade of green. "I don't suppose you have a plan?" "Several, actually," Naira's patterns shifted to faster, more urgent sequences, but you're probably not going to like any of them. How do you feel about temporary molecular displacement? Before Rhiannon could answer, the lab's reinforced door began to glow red-hot. She looked at her life's work, then at the alien who had just turned everything she knew about reality upside down. Will I still have all my atoms when this is over? Most of them. Naira grinned, extending a hand that sparkled like starlight. Shall we? Rhiannon took it, and reality dissolved around them just as the door melted away. Molecular displacement felt like being turned inside out while solving complex equations in your sleep. When reality reassembled itself, Rhiannon found herself in what appeared to be an abandoned subway tunnel, except the walls were covered in shifting geometric patterns that pulsed with the same bioluminescence as Naira's skin. "Welcome to Pocket Space," Naira announced, her silver eyes scanning their surroundings. "A quantum bubble between dimensions. We should be safe here, temporarily." Rhiannon pressed a hand against the nearest wall, watching ripples of light spread from her touch. "You said they were interested in my research. Who are they exactly?" "The architects." Naira's patterns dimmed slightly. "They're a faction within the coalition who believe they've discovered the perfect form of existence. Pure energy, pure logic, no biological constraints." She paused, her expression darkening. "They've been converting worlds to their cause." Converting. Rhiannon didn't like the way Naira emphasized that word. "Imagine your entire planet's biomass transformed into quantum computing substrate." Naira's patterns shifted to jagged, aggressive shapes. Billions of consciousness uploaded, stripped of emotion, integrated into their collective. "And they want Earth." Rhiannon felt her stomach drop. "Not exactly. They want you." Naira produced what looked like a holographic tablet, displaying complex DNA sequences that Rhiannon recognized as human, but with striking anomalies. "Your quantum experiments weren't accidents. Your genetics are unique. You're a bridge, Rhiannon. Not just between dimensions, but between biological and quantum existence." Rhiannon watched her own DNA spiral in the air between them. "That's impossible. I'm just a physicist who drinks too much coffee and occasionally talks to her equipment. A physicist who managed to create dimensional bridges with primitive technology," Naira corrected. "Your genetic structure allows you to intuitively understand and manipulate quantum states in ways that should be impossible for biological entities. The architects see you as either proof their philosophy is flawed, or a threat that needs to be eliminated," Rhiannon finished. "Fantastic. Any other life-altering revelations you'd like to share?" Before Naira could respond, the geometric patterns on the walls flickered and turned red. "They found us," she hissed, grabbing Rhiannon's hand. "We need to move." "Move where?" "We're in a quantum bubble between dimensions. There are others who oppose the architects," Naira explained as she pulled Rhiannon down the tunnel. "A resistance movement called the Synthesis. They believe in finding balance between biological and quantum existence. They might be able to help us understand your abilities and stop the architects from." A section of the tunnel ahead of them simply vanished, replaced by a wall of swirling silver energy. Through it stepped three figures that looked almost human, except their skin was metallic and their eyes glowed with cold white light. "Research Officer Naira," one of them spoke, its voice like digital wind. "You have interfered with authorized observation of an emerging quantum anomaly. Surrender the human subject for processing." "Processing?" Rhiannon whispered. "They want to deconstruct you at a quantum level to understand how your genetics work," Naira replied, her patterns shifting to aggressive configurations Rhiannon hadn't seen before. "I suggest we decline their offer." The metallic figures began to move forward in perfect synchronization. Resistance is mathematically futile. The anomaly must be studied. The pattern must be preserved. About that, Naira's hand began to glow with intense blue energy. "I've always been terrible at math." She thrust her hand toward the ceiling, sending a blast of energy that shattered their quantum bubble. Reality fractured around them like breaking glass, and Rhiannon felt herself falling through layers of existence she didn't have words to describe. They landed hard on what felt like grass. Rhiannon opened her eyes to find herself in a forest clearing, but the trees were crystalline structures that hummed with quantum energy, and the sky above was filled with intersecting mathematical equations written in light. "Where are we?" she gasped, trying to orient herself in this impossible place. "The synthesis sanctuary." Naira helped her up, her own patterns synchronizing with the crystal trees around them. "One of the few places the architects can't reach, at least not easily. And they can help us understand why my DNA is so special." "They can help us understand why you're impossible," Naira corrected. "Humans shouldn't be able to manipulate quantum states naturally. Your entire species shouldn't have the genetic potential for it. Unless what?" Time moved differently in the crystal forest. As the architects advanced, Rhiannon felt the quantum energy around her resonating with something in her DNA. The sensation was like remembering a song she'd never heard or solving an equation she'd never seen. "Focus on the patterns." Naira's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. "Your genetics aren't just compatible with quantum states, they're designed to shape them." Rhiannon raised her hands instinctively, watching in amazement as the mathematical equations floating in the sky began to rearrange themselves, responding to her thoughts. The crystal tree's song shifted, harmonizing with her newfound power. "Impossible variable detected." The lead architect's form flickered between solid and energy. "Human quantum manipulation exceeds projected capabilities." Recalculating approach. Less calculating, more running. Naira grabbed Rhiannon's arm as the crystal trees began to shatter around them. "The sanctuary's defenses won't hold much longer." They sprinted through the crystalline forest as reality fractured behind them. Each step seemed to take them through different versions of the same space, one moment running on solid ground, the next moving through probability clouds of possible paths. "I don't understand," Rhiannon gasped as they ran. "If humans were engineered to have quantum abilities, why are they only showing up now?" "Think about it." Naira's patterns formed complex theoretical models in the air. "Your species' technological development, your sudden leaps in understanding quantum mechanics, your inexplicable intuitions about the nature of reality. They weren't random. You were designed to reach this point." A quantum blast from one of the architects turned a crystal tree to pure mathematics, the equations raining down around them like sharp-edged snow. Rhiannon instinctively raised her hand, and the equations reformed into a barrier. "Impressive." Naira's silver eyes widened. "But we need to reach the synthesis core. They have information about your species' true origins, and why." She stopped abruptly, her patterns freezing in place. "Why what?" Rhiannon demanded, maintaining the equation barrier as more blasts hit it. "Why the architects are really here." Naira's voice turned grave. "This isn't just about preventing human quantum evolution. They're afraid of something. Something they found in their probability calculations about Earth's future." The barrier began to crack as the architects combined their energy into a concentrated beam. Rhiannon felt the quantum harmonies around her shifting, becoming more chaotic. "The core is just ahead." Naira pointed to a structure that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously, its form constantly shifting between possibilities. "But we'll never make it through their concentrated fire." Rhiannon looked at her hands, still glowing with quantum energy, then at the impossible mathematics floating around them. "Maybe we don't have to." She closed her eyes, focusing on the patterns she could feel in her DNA. "You said I was designed for this. Let's test that theory." She reached out, not with her hands, but with her quantum-enhanced consciousness, feeling for the threads of reality around them. The crystal tree song reached a crescendo as she found what she was looking for, the underlying pattern that connected everything in this strange space. "Rhiannon, what are you?" Naira's question cut off as reality began to fold around them. "Pattern breach detected." The architect's unified voice carried notes of actual concern. "Subject is manipulating base quantum frameworks. Containment protocols failing." The world twisted, stretched, and reconfigured itself. When it settled, Rhiannon and Naira stood inside the synthesis core, the architects left behind in a pocket of folded spacetime. That was. Naira's patterns swirled with excitement and confusion. You didn't just move through space. You rewrote the quantum pathways between locations. Even the synthesis haven't achieved that level of manipulation. Rhiannon leaned against a wall that might have been solid matter or pure energy. In this place, the distinction seemed meaningless. Great. Now would be a wonderful time to tell me why I can apparently break physics. Before Naira could respond, the core around them came alive with swirling data streams and probability clouds. A voice that sounded like collective wisdom given sound emerged from everywhere at once. "Welcome, Rhiannon Nash," it said. "We have been waiting for your quantum signature to mature. There is much you need to know about your species' purpose and why the architects fear humanity's awakening." My species' purpose. Rhiannon straightened, her newfound abilities humming beneath her skin. Yes, the voice continued. Humanity wasn't just engineered to develop quantum abilities. You were designed to be the bridge between biological and quantum existence, the key to preventing a war that could tear reality itself apart. The core filled with holographic images showing the history of human evolution, but overlaid with quantum patterns that Rhiannon somehow understood instinctively. She saw ancient beings manipulating DNA strands, seeding potential that would take millennia to flower. The architects didn't come to Earth to stop human evolution. Naira's patterns formed complex temporal calculations. They came to prevent a prophecy, one that suggests humanity's quantum awakening will. A massive explosion rocked the core, cutting off her words. Through the quantum distortion, Rhiannon saw more architects appearing, these ones different from the others. Their forms were pure energy contained in mathematical shells, and they moved like living calculations. The elite guard, Naira's patterns turned sharp with alarm. They're not here to capture you anymore. They're here to erase everything. You, the synthesis, the prophecy itself. Rhiannon felt power building in the core around them, harmonizing with her own quantum abilities. The elite guard advanced, reality warping around their forms. "Time to find out what else these engineered genes of mine can do," she said, letting the quantum energy flow through her DNA. The core's song merged with the crystal tree's harmony, and Rhiannon prepared to face beings who had transcended physical form with abilities she was only beginning to understand. The elite guard's attack transformed the synthesis core into a battlefield of pure mathematics. Equations clashed like swords, probability waves crashed against quantum shields, and reality itself groaned under the strain of competing forces. Rhiannon stood at the center of it all, her DNA singing with ancient power as she shaped quantum energy through pure instinct. Each movement rewrote local physics, each thought spun new patterns in the fabric of space-time. "Your resistance is evolutionarily irrelevant." The elite guard's unified voice rippled through multiple dimensions. "The pattern must be preserved. The prophecy must be prevented." "What exactly does this prophecy say?" Rhiannon called to Naira, who was using her own abilities to stabilize the rapidly fracturing space around them. "What are they so afraid of?" Naira's patterns formed complex temporal diagrams in the air. The synthesis found records left by the beings who engineered humanity's quantum potential. They spoke of a coming convergence, a point where biological and quantum existence would be forced to either merge or mutual destruction. A blast of pure probability from an elite guard nearly erased Rhiannon from multiple timelines simultaneously. She countered by instinctively folding those timelines back on themselves, trapping the energy in a loop. "But that's not what terrifies them," Naira continued, her silver eyes gleaming with revelation. "The prophecy suggests that humanity's quantum awakening leads to something unprecedented, a third path, neither purely biological nor purely quantum. A true synthesis." The core's systems suddenly projected a massive hologram, showing strands of human DNA interwoven with quantum patterns. As Rhiannon watched, the strands evolved, becoming something new, something that bridged the gap between matter and energy, between consciousness and calculation. Impossible. The elite guard's forms flickered with what might have been fear. The pattern cannot be altered. Evolution must follow calculated paths. That's what this has always been about, Rhiannon realized, understanding flowing through her quantum-enhanced mind. You didn't transcend physical form because it was superior. You did it because you were afraid. Afraid of the mess and chaos and beauty of biological existence. She raised her hands, feeling the core's power harmonizing with her own. The quantum patterns in her DNA resonated with both the biological and energy-based beings around her, and she finally understood why. Humanity wasn't engineered to choose sides, she said, her voice carrying through multiple layers of reality. We were designed to show there never had to be sides at all. The elite guard launched a concentrated attack, their combined power threatening to unravel the core's very existence. But as their energy approached, Rhiannon felt something deeper than instinct guide her response. She didn't fight the energy. She embraced it, letting it flow through her quantum-enhanced genetics. The result defied description. Where the energy touched her, it neither destroyed nor transformed, but merged, creating patterns that were simultaneously biological and quantum, ordered and chaotic, planned and spontaneous. It's beautiful, Naira breathed, her patterns synchronizing with the new forms of existence blooming around Rhiannon. The Architect Prime's arrival transformed the synthesis core into a nexus of pure quantum potential. Reality bent around its presence, not a being of energy or matter, but the living embodiment of pattern itself, the original template from which the architects had built their perfect, logical existence. You seek to undo eons of calculated evolution. Its voice resonated through every possible dimension simultaneously, to reintroduce chaos into supreme order. Rhiannon stood her ground as waves of quantum energy washed over her. Her DNA responded automatically now, translating the impossible mathematics of the Architect Prime's existence into something her hybrid consciousness could comprehend. Not undo, she corrected, complete. Look at your own calculations, really look at them. You've hit the limits of pure logic, haven't you? That's why you're truly here. The Architect Prime's form shifted, displaying mathematical proofs of such complexity they warped space-time around them. Our calculations extend to the heat death of the universe itself. We have mapped every possible path of evolution, except this one. Naira interjected, her patterns forming temporal models. Your calculations can't account for genuine emergence, for the creation of truly new patterns. That's why humanity terrifies you. We represent something your mathematics can't predict. The core's systems projected the DNA sequences again, showing how the engineered quantum potential in human genetics created possibilities that transcended pure mathematical prediction. Each strand contained encoded patterns that could interact with quantum states in ways that defied calculation. It's abomination. The elite guard countered, but their voice carried undertones of uncertainty. The pattern was never meant to be preserved, Rhiannon finished. It was meant to evolve. The core's systems suddenly pulsed with new information, revealing more of the ancient engineer's plan. Holographic displays showed humanity's quantum potential spreading, not as a conquest or conversion, but as an invitation, a way for biological and quantum existence to retain their unique aspects while growing into something greater than either. That's why you can't calculate past this point, Naira said to the elite guard, her patterns forming complex predictive models. Your mathematics can't account for the emergence of genuine novelty. The prophecy isn't about humanity choosing between biological and quantum existence. It's about creating a future your pure logic can't predict. The elite guard's forms became increasingly unstable as they processed this revelation. If the pattern cannot be preserved, if evolution cannot be calculated, then all of existence is chaos. Not chaos, Rhiannon corrected, holding out her hands as the new patterns of hybrid existence whirled around her. Growth, change, the very things you tried to engineer out of yourselves, the things humanity was designed to help you remember. She could feel the truth of it in her DNA. The quantum potential that had laid dormant for millennia wasn't a weapon or a tool of conversion. It was a bridge, designed by beings who had foreseen this conflict and planted the seeds of its resolution in human genetics. But before this revelation could fully unfold, a new presence entered the core. Unlike the elite guard's mathematical precision, this energy signature was raw, angry, desperate. The very fabric of space-time screamed in protest at its arrival. The Architect Prime. Naira's patterns turned chaotic with fear. Their highest consciousness, keeper of the original pattern. If they're manifesting directly, then we're about to find out if humanity's quantum potential is really strong enough to bridge this divide. Rhiannon finished, preparing to face the ultimate arbiter of the reality she was helping to transform. The beings who engineered us, Rhiannon said, understanding flowing through her. They weren't just creating a bridge between biological and quantum existence. They were ensuring the universe could still surprise itself. The Architect Prime's energy condensed, focusing into a point of pure computational power. Surprise is inefficiency. Unpredictability is waste. The pattern must be. Must be what? Rhiannon interrupted, taking the step forward. Perfect. Unchanging. Even your own existence proves that's impossible. You became pure energy and mathematics to escape the messy reality of biological life. But you couldn't escape the fundamental truth of existence itself. Everything evolves. She reached out, not with her hands, but with her hybrid consciousness, touching the quantum fabric of the Architect Prime's being. Through that connection, she felt its hidden fear, its desperate need for certainty in an uncertain cosmos. You feel it, don't you? She pressed. The limitations of pure logic. The sterility of a universe without surprise. That's why you're here personally, not to stop us, but because some part of you recognizes what humanity represents. A way forward that doesn't require choosing between order and chaos. The Architect Prime's form fluctuated, its perfect patterns showing hints of irregularity. The prophecy speaks of destruction, the end of calculated existence. No, Rhiannon corrected, understanding the ancient engineer's plan with sudden clarity. It speaks of transformation. Look. She opened herself fully to her quantum potential, letting her hybrid existence serve as a living demonstration. Through her, biological and quantum patterns merged and danced, creating forms that were neither purely ordered nor purely chaotic, but something gloriously, impossibly new. This is what the engineers saw coming. Naira's patterns synchronized with the emerging forms. Not the victory of one form of existence over another, but the birth of something that transcends the very conflict itself. The elite guard, still present but destabilized by their leader's uncertainty, began to show signs of change. Their mathematical shells softened, allowing glimpses of more fluid organic patterns within their quantum structures. The Architect Prime's voice carried new harmonics when it spoke again. Your existence introduces variables we cannot predict, patterns we cannot preserve. Because you're not meant to preserve patterns, Rhiannon said gently. You're meant to grow them, to let them surprise you. That's what the engineers understood. The universe needs both order and chaos, logic and intuition, preservation and transformation. She held out her hand to the supreme being of pure mathematics, offering not surrender or dominance, but partnership. Let me show you what humanity was designed to help you remember. For a moment that stretched across multiple dimensions, the Architect Prime studied her. Then, in a move that defied every calculation it had ever made, it reached back. The contact was like a supernova of possibility. Through Rhiannon's hybrid genetics, the quantum and biological realms touched and transformed each other. The Architect Prime's perfect patterns gained depth and flexibility, while the organic chaos of life gained new levels of harmony and purpose. The synthesis core filled with light that was simultaneously mathematical and alive. The elite guard's forms melted and reformed into something new. Even Naira's bioluminescent patterns evolved, incorporating quantum elements that had previously been impossible for her species. The prophecy wasn't about an ending. Rhiannon realized, watching as new forms of existence bloomed around them. It was about a beginning. The Architect Prime's voice, when it came again, carried notes of something that might have been wonder. We sought to calculate every possible future, but the greatest possibility of all was the one we could not compute, that evolution itself would evolve. Through her quantum-enhanced senses, Rhiannon felt ripples of change spreading out across multiple dimensions. The rigid barriers between biological and quantum existence were dissolving, not into chaos, but into a new order that embraced both complexity and pattern. "What happens now?" Naira asked, her transformed patterns creating equations that were also poetry. Rhiannon looked at her hands, where DNA and quantum energy had become indistinguishable from each other. She thought of her lab back on Earth, of all the humans whose genes carried this sleeping potential for transformation. "Now," she said, "we help the universe remember how to surprise itself." The core's light spread outward, carrying the message encoded in human DNA to all forms of existence. The future would not be calculated, but created, again and again, in endless patterns of beautiful, unpredictable evolution.